All right, one of the biggest problems on Long Island that is affecting everyone is without a doubt the economy. And where it's really hitting hard is small businesses. They are all over this island, or they used to be all over this island. Get your strip malls. I think all of us know this now. You see strip mall like 5, 6 stores. At least one of them is vacant. Lots of times 2 of them. Small businesses is the backbone of this country, and it's going, and it's not doing good. It's going down, and we need to find out a way to turn it around. Because without the small businesses, you just got these huge corporate industries, and they're gonna just outsource all the jobs to China and India, because they rather care more about their profit, their bottom line, than they do about us. We've all seen it. So, in order to get the small businesses back, first we need somebody who has experience with getting it back. And our next speaker is one who's talked about this for a long time, even has a seminar on it, I believe, on small business solutions. So let's welcome to our event, Mr. Josh Tolley.
Just out of curiosity, how many people are self-employed in this room? That's pretty good, actually. That's awesome. That's really good.
Behind the podium.
How many people believe in a free America? Well, that's kind of everybody.
That should exist.
It should exist. That it should exist. That you should have freedom. There's a very stark correlation between freedom and its decline and the rise of employment. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Josh Tolley. I host a syndicated radio talk show. It's on 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We actually air on a local station around here. And I wrote the book, Quit Your Job or Die, Discover the Importance of Self-Employment. And initially, the title was kind of a laughing title. Like, okay, I'm just going to name it this until I figure out the name, because I'm a proponent of entrepreneurship. And the more research I did, the more I found out that employment is extremely dangerous. It's just phenomenally dangerous. It's the leading cause of death, leading cause of divorce, leading cause of teen drug use, leading cause of teen pregnancy, leading cause of a ton of bad stuff. And unlike some of the speakers that we've had, I kind of came to this freedom, this liberty, this restoration movement, not from some great documentary or some great economics book or something. I just started a business, and it was crazy how through business I just discovered that, hey, there's a little too much government here. Nobody had to pitch me. And what I found was interesting is if you look at other entrepreneurs, they kind of line up politically too, and you get to this point where you think, well, nobody had to pitch them either. So what's the point of all this? Well, when I look at the speaker lineup, we have Big Pharma, right? Who thinks Big Pharma is a problem? Okay, the answer to that is entrepreneurship. We have economic reform. We have 2 great economists. Bob Murphy, who's coming up after me. I'm lucky to say I'm Bob's opening act. But we have 2 great economists. I know a lot of broke economists. I mean, not that it's a bad thing, and but I do. So really, that's not the answer either. Not just to talk about economic reform. And when I teach businesses, I teach them this. There's 2 types of approaches. There's a mechanical approach, and let's say you had a 15-year-old daughter, and she said, Mom, Dad, I want to drive. The mechanical approach would be, okay, well, this is what we need to do then. We need to teach you that an internal combustion works like this. A little bit of fuel, a little bit of air goes in a chamber, piston comes up, makes a lot of compression, the spark lights it, that explosion forces the piston down, it turns the shaft, and it propels the car. Would you then hand her the keys and say, yeah, you know everything you need to know? No, but see, that's what we do with the economy. That's what we do with the economy. We say, oh man, the economy's terrible. So we have to figure out from an economics standpoint, from an economist, how to drive this thing. And that's not to say you don't need a mechanic, you do. But we have given up driving. We've given up driving. We talk a lot about freedom, and it's obviously a prevailing message. Did you know in prison you're allowed to have calls, but you're not at work? work out, go outside, exercise, not at work. In prison, you're allowed visits, not at work. At prison, you're allowed conjugal visits, not at work. But yet, what is our default? Our default is, okay, I'm going to complain about Big Pharma, and I'm going to complain about the drug war. I'm going to complain about people infringing my Second Amendment. But we lose our power to do anything about it when we give up the ability to operate in freedom, and that's through entrepreneurship. I tell people all the time on the show that free enterprise is the fuel for freedom, right? We know we don't like a fiat currency. We've heard a few people already talk about the Federal Reserve and the value of a dollar. You know, they tried to push the central banking monster in on us before, right? And we rejected it twice. Well then, in 1913, we accepted it. Why? What changed? Right, I get it. What's the we stuff? I wasn't even born, and you probably weren't either. But my point is, the thing that changed is we became an employee-based economy. See, when we were in an entrepreneurship-based economy, we could fight back and say, no. They tried it again, we say, no. Then 1903 happens, we start this big industrial revolution. Everybody says, okay, I want to become an employee, because this is just the cat's meow. I only work from 8 to 5, they give me a pension, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, they try it again, and it works. Not only does it work, but if you notice, the faster the rise of employment goes, the faster the decline of all your freedoms go. But we don't talk about that, and we post some things on a bumper sticker, or maybe we post something on Facebook and say, I'm trying to inform the public. Well, information is not enough. Information doesn't do any good if there's no strategy to use that information. If I was a general, right, and I knew that there's another general across the hill, and he plans on, because I know the information, he plans on using his artillery and his helicopters and whatever else he has as his assets, and he's planning to kill me. If I don't have something to do with this information, so what? But yet we run around saying, well, all we have to do is tell people. All we got to do is wake them up. Really? Why do they hold votes on Tuesday? Because you're at work. Why do they know in local elections that are the most important, most of you won't vote? Because you're too busy at work. I mean, we really need to get back to this. Why? Why are we even doing this? Why are you here? Is it really to combat against the Federal Reserve? Or is it to be free? Is it really to combat against Big Pharma? Or is it to combat against what Big Pharma is doing to you? That guy who almost died like 12 times, and it's a miracle that he's here. How many more people could he help if entrepreneurship was helping him? How many people could we educate if we had entrepreneurship pushing that mode? And a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, but we have a fiat currency. So what? I get it, it sucks, I speak at the Fed events, gotcha. But if it's used as a weapon against you, it can be taken away and used as a weapon for you too. Because I could tell you, if you had 5 million extra fiat dollars in your pocket, you could buy a lot of airtime, a lot of billboards to wake people up, couldn't you? And I get this pushback, oh, well, Josh, now's not the time to start a business because of all the regulation. Really? So you're telling me it's better to be an employee with all the regulation? I mean, you're going to earn income doing something, right? So would you rather be controlled all day, have no money to spend to fight for freedom, spend on average 15 minutes per week with your spouse, and then tell me about all the important things in life? Or would you rather say, yeah, there's regulation, but I'm going to kick them in the teeth with their own regulation? So this mindset of, well, we need to know about Big Pharma, we need to know about vaccines. Yes, yes, and yes. But now that you know, what are you going to do? And they know this. Because even in Burmes's film, well, you know, there's 30 million people without work, and with 30 million people out of work. No, it doesn't matter. If 30 million people had work, we would still be serfs. Because we don't have the engine to fight back. Free enterprise has always been, and always will be, the fuel for freedom, period. You could go look at the captives in Egypt, right? The Hebrew whatever. Take out the Bible. You could look at that story and see, well, wait a second. The people who made bricks, they could kill them and not feel it. Kill 100 of them, not feel it. But if you killed the guy who made your face go on the monument, well, now you don't have the monument with your face on it, so that guy had his own house. That guy had his own staff, even though he was technically a slave. Which one would you rather be? And the correlation between employment and prison, even though it's funny, it's really true. I had a cardiologist on the show, and I asked him, I said, what's the leading cause of death? And he said, stress. Stress amplifies cancer, amplifies diabetes, amplifies whatever you have. Stress amplifies it. And then I said, well, what's the number one cause for stress? Employment. It's true. Number one cause for stress is employment. So we have this situation where we're placing ourselves in the worst possible position, and then yet saying we're fighting for freedom. How? And I think, and I know this might hurt a little bit, but I think sometimes we think, well, as long as I'm posting 12 memes a day on Facebook, I'm doing my part. Doesn't do us any good. Do you really think those who are controlling you care if you know you're controlled? Does the farmer care if the cow knows he's in a pen? All of a sudden we're supposed to know we're cows and that equals freedom? The only thing we've done with a lot of this freedom movement based on an entirely information-driven agenda is just made ourselves aware that we're cows. I'd rather not know if that were the case, to be honest with you. But you know what's interesting? That barbed wire fence that only weighs a few ounces per foot is no match for the cows if they actually decided to push against it. The largest war in this country is not pharma, it's not fiat, it's entrepreneurship, it's free enterprise. If they can keep you employed, they got you. And the parties know this. This is why all the parties argue which party can give us more jobs, right? You have the guy on the left. Well, my plan to bring jobs is. The guy on the right. My plan to bring jobs is. And really that's saying, well, I'm going to take care of you better than the other farmer. You're still going to die, but I'm a better farmer. Does that make sense? So we need to make that transition. And it's not just enough. It's not just enough to know that we need to be small business owners. Because there's 27 million small business owners in the country right now. Not too bad. But 53% of those small businesses need a secondary source of income in order to keep that business open. Another 30% don't have the financial momentum to make it 5 years. And a recent study showed 9 out of 10 won't make it 10 years. So it's this idea of not only owning a business, but then what do you do once you own it? How do you actually drive this thing? So many people think, well, all I have to do is offer a good product or a good service, put up a website, make a social media campaign, and I should be making money. They don't, they fail, they go backwards in a lot of cases, and then they start blaming free enterprise. Oh, well, it's better to just have a job. That'd be like tossing the keys to your kid saying, hey, man, you have the freedom of driving, go for it. He crashes and say, well, obviously driving doesn't get me anywhere. But that's exactly what we do with business. It's absolutely stupid. It's just stupid. I used to, and here's where it starts. We talk a lot about, oh, well, when did the Federal Reserve start? 1913, Creature from Jekyll Island. All true, got it. And we also know the only reason that succeeded now because we were an employee-based economy. The 2 attempts to push it beforehand failed because we were in an entrepreneurship-based economy, right? But I usually take with me when I do a seminar on business a book from 1929. It's a 7th grade textbook. It's about that thick. It's about 5 inches long, 3 inches wide. And it's a 7th grade math textbook. First chapter, how to hire your first employee. By the time you're done with the book, you know inventory, you know distribution, you know insurance rates, you know calculation of pricing, you know all these. I could literally teach a course in business out of a 7th grade textbook. Now, a 7th grade textbook weighs about 20 pounds, is 3 inches thick, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of repetition. And then yet we complain against Common Core. Who knows what Common Core is? How many people hate it? How many people are telling their kids, go to school, get good grades, get a good job? Yeah. You can't be against Common Core and be for employment. It makes you a hypocrite. So we need to get back to this place again where we teach entrepreneurship. That has to be the default go-to for our children. Now we could do a little, how do we actually become successful in business? And that's actually my thing, so I'd much rather prefer to speak about that anyway. But the mindset that we need to cultivate is to tell people, hey, you know what? Instead of voting for who's going to have a job or which party gives you a job, start developing your own businesses. And the second objection I get past there's too much regulation. First, there's really not. Is there regulation? Yes. Is it trying to stamp out business? Yes. Ask yourself why. Really, if we're going to go down the vaccines are bad, which is true, if we're going to go down fiat currency is bad, which is true, why do you think they want to stop free enterprise? Because it empowers the people. The people then get to decide who runs for office, which campaigns get funded. Which medicines, exactly, which medicines are made. That guy who almost died 12 times, he's one example. There's a guy in Texas who has a cure for cancer, but they can't get the patients because the patients can't afford to go. And look what happened. When they tried to push healthcare before, no, push back. Tried it again, no, push back. Now, if you watch between Hillary Clinton's day when she tried it and Barack Obama's day when he tried it, we had more employees, less entrepreneurs, and it worked. Every time, I'm serious, you can track it on a graph. Every time they go for a push against your freedom, it denotes a spot in time where there's become more and more employees. Even if they're on unemployment, they're still in an employment-based economy. Make sense? So how tough is this regulation in reality? Well, if you're going to start a bank, you're up a creek. You are, and they know that. But there's still opportunity. There's still opportunity. I'll give you an example. I helped a guy start a business. He had no money, because that's the second objection. Well, it takes money to make money. If that was true, we'd all be sharing the original $10 bill. That's just stupid too. He had no money. And he's like, Josh, I want to start a business, but I can't. I have no money and I have no skills. And, doesn't it cost $50,000, $60,000, $100,000? I said, well, what can you do? He says, well, I want to own a bed and breakfast. I said, no, not what do you want to do. What can you do? And we have this stupid idea, too, that with your job, you accepted the first one you found on Craigslist, but with your business, it has to be the perfect one. You're more picky about what business you start than the wife you marry, for goodness sakes. So I said, okay, no, forget that. What can you do? Well, I can draw. Okay, cool. Well, then let's start there. So we went to an Italian restaurant. This was in Seattle. We went to an Italian restaurant, and we said to the Italian restaurant, hey, this guy needs $500. $75 to get around the impossible regulation of starting a business for a city permit. So we need $75 for that. And then the other money for equipment and, whatever. But in exchange for that, we'll give away a coupon for your Italian restaurant to everybody he draws one of those sketches to for the tourists. The Italian restaurant says, wow, I can't even really make Facebook effective for $500. Yes, please. So he got his money because it took money to make money. He started his business. Last time I talked to him, he works 4 days a week, gets off it whenever he wants to, makes over $70,000 a year. That's not too bad, huh? But in school, we taught him, go to school, go into debt, get good grades, get a good job, die broke, and that's the key to happy life. So that message needs to change. When Steve Jobs died, and this isn't, pro-Apple or whatever, but when Steve Jobs died, all these people are like, oh, Steve's just an awesome guy. I want my kids to be just like Steve. And they would call into the show and they'd be like, yeah, we lost an American icon. And my response was, really, if your kids did what Steve did, you would all have a fit. If your kid came home and said, Mom, I'm dropping out of college. You're like, what? Oh, and by the way, I'm going to start a business. You'd have a corner. You'd be dead. You'd be like the other guy. Out you go. So we have... Okay, so that's a little funny. He's not in the room. Don't worry about it. I'm just kidding. He was an awesome guy. But we have to get back to that, right? So let's kind of cover, if I have time. He ain't in here anyway. I got time. Let's cover the top 5 mistakes business owners make. The first one is, entering their place in the industry. We have a tendency to launch our boat where the boat launch is, right? Like I was helping this one client and they wanted to get into coffee shops. And I'm like, why? There's like 50 of them in town. Well, they must be making money. That's why there's 50 of them. And we have this knee-jerk reaction to get into an industry at the most crowded point. That's stupid too. So even if you say, okay, I want to be in the coffee industry, why not say to yourself something like, well, wait a second. If there's 50 coffee shops in town, where are they getting this coffee? Oh, they're getting it from Trenton. Trenton, that's a long ways away. What if I become the wholesaler to all 40 or at least 40 out of the 50? Now I'm making money on the industry itself, not necessarily placing my business in the easiest entry point. So that's the number one mistake we make. We need to examine that. Second mistake we make is we don't understand marketing and advertising. That is also true with this movement. You wonder why the Republicans can host an event and have it in an arena, yet people who are actually for freedom host an event and it's like we're pulling teeth? I mean, has everybody ever wondered?
I think I know the answer.
What's it? Okay, go ahead.
Because Republicans control a certain amount of the tax money that's flowing to the patronage. Everybody who's going to one of those conventions thinks they're going to make some money on it somehow by meeting the right people who can give them the opportunity to steal some taxpayer money.
No. I mean, it's a great shot. That was awesome. I mean, you almost hit it, but no. The reason why is because we're dealing with an area of belief. Now, this is kind of deep and trippy. A belief is an accepted truth. Doesn't mean it's actually true, it just isn't accepted as truth. Kind of like Santa Claus, right? When you're a little kid, whatever. So you believe it's true. The Republicans come along and say, hey, you know what you believe is true about the country, about how those other people are so terrible? Well, we believe that too. Okay. And then the Democrats come along and say, hey, you know what you believe about how these people on the right are all like neocons and blah, 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 blah. Okay. And, they separate into little, parties. It's like Moses parting the... Anyway. Then you have the people who want freedom. And because we're so passionate about it, we have a belief about freedom. And then we discount the fact that all beliefs, here's your little secret, all beliefs are wrapped with emotion. All of them. That's why you're sad when you find out Santa's around, or wrong, So we, as people who understand the truth, want to express this truth so you get it. We are essentially attacking their preconceived belief, which is wrapped in emotion. What do we expect to happen? Psychologically, we should expect kickback. We should expect people rejecting it. We should expect people saying, no, I don't want to be part of that. What do we get? That. Because we're trying to sell these things based on emotion from our emotional standpoint. And we get frustrated. Ever feel like you're beating your head against the wall? Oh, I don't get it. Oh, it's so obvious. Fluoride in the water, vaccines, blah. And the more angry you get, the more angry they get. Right. So what this side of the discussion really needs is some real training, which the other parties can afford to do. So that's the second mistake, is we don't understand that belief is part of the sales process. And it really is. Then we have advertising and marketing. How many people can name 10 billboards they saw from JFK or LaGuardia to here? Yeah, exactly. I've done this for 15 years now. I've done it to rooms with thousands of people in them. You can't. How many people can name 10 ads you saw in the newspaper today? Did you even read a newspaper today? Right, exactly. How many people can name 10 ads you saw on the television? Exactly. See, but here's my point. My point is, small businesses get into business and they waste a bunch of money advertising in places where it doesn't actually work. How many people like sponsored ads on Facebook? Then why do small businesses try and think that that's going to succeed? How many people like pop-ups when you go to foreignpress.com? Yeah, exactly. And then we wonder why they're failing. And if you think about it, when you look at what Facebook did and why they got in trouble for their valuation, it was because they didn't admit how terrible their advertising was. Remember? Like, oh yeah, you're not going to actually hit these revenue generation goals. But yet we all think, well, I got to start a social media marketing campaign. It doesn't work. At best, Facebook is customer retention. These are people who already know about you. But yet we teach this crap in business schools. And you know, we could get deeper into that, algorithms and all that sort of stuff, where only 4% of people who follow you are going to see it anyway. How 90% of people who are in social media are unfriending or unliking businesses anyway. What's the difference between branding and marketing and advertising? Yeah, I teach a whole seminar on this. But that's the reason, and that's the truth. Until we get back to an entrepreneurship-based economy, we're toast. I don't care if we get Bitcoin. I don't care if we go back to a gold standard. It doesn't matter. Until the people have the ability to generate their own economy. Does that make sense? And it's not that I'm against Bitcoin. It's not that I'm against gold standard. I'm against anything that empowers the people. But if you look back through history, before the fiat currency, we were still controlled. If you were an employee, you were still controlled. I'm working on a book right now that talks from a history standpoint. Did employees really even exist? And what I found is you have 4 categories of people. You had masters, you know, rich people, everybody kind of gets that. On the other side, you had slaves, everybody kind of gets that. You know, no choice, you're just captive. But in the middle, you had laborers and servants. Laborers were actually entrepreneurs, even if you're a biblical perspective sort of person, because they got to negotiate the wage before starting the day's work. Servants didn't really have a choice. They finished their work, and they were given more work in an unrelated field until the end of the day. At some point, they could possibly buy their freedom. Today we call that retirement. But you're buying your freedom back. So this whole concept of, well, you know, I'm going to be an employee, and I'm fighting for freedom, and all that sort of stuff. The most vital move you can make is to start a business. The second most vital move you can make is get the right training to do so. And that's not a plug for me. You notice I don't have a table out there. Not that if you do it's bad, but that's not saying, you know, I'm a guru. I'm just saying you need to get to that perspective where you get that training. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps a little bit. If you are interested, because a lot of people have already asked me, hey, can I get a book or can I come to a training? See that guy right there? He'll be able to help you. Like I said, don't have a table. But if you want one of these, we can sell it to you. If not, that's fine. Go to Amazon or whatever. But take away this from the message. Every other message you hear, think about how entrepreneurship empowers that message. Okay? Thank you.